bring in now the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, okay, let's fast forward to Thursday. President Trump meets with Rod Rosenstein. How does that meeting go? Look in your crystal ball. What do you expect to happen?
Oh, I have no idea.
Take a guess. What would you think? How does this play out?
I don't think the status quo is tenable anymore in the sense that Rosenstein can just laugh this off as a joke, especially since one of the things that resulted from these meetings talking about overthrowing the President of the United States was the Mueller special counsel. So if I were the president, I'd make one or two decisions. Fire him, ask for his resignation, have him leave, or say, look, let's say what you did was completely innocent. Let's have a third party look at it. I want you to submit yourself and ask for an IG investigation into this meeting and others related to the appointment of Mueller and what you were doing.
We have Representative Mark Meadows, as you heard in just Blake's reporting, that he says he should testify before Congress. Do you agree with that?
Oh, certainly it's appropriate for Congress to look into whether the leadership of the FBI and DOJ were conspiring to overthrow the President of the United States. He said he was joking about wearing a wiretap. He didn't say he was joking about the 25th Amendment. He said he didn't advocate for the 25th Amendment. I don't know what that means. It came up, evidently. He didn't deny it, didn't come up. And so I think Congress is well within its rights to ask questions about this. And I tell you, again, we keep on talking around the key issue, which is what Mueller has been doing. And it seems to me there's been insufficient oversight by Congress into the operations of the Mueller special counsel, the circumstances of his hiring, and how he's been operating, at least in terms of decision-making on personnel and budgets and what his role has been in terms of having a conflict of interest with his own investigation and using people like Peter Strzok as part of his investigation, yet hiding the fact for 4 months that he had to fire him.
Right.
And of course, you got the infamous DNC dossier, the Clinton DNC dossier, that is evidently being used by the Mueller team.
There are those that say firing Rosenstein at this point is a bad move, or Rosenstein, I should say, is a bad move. It's bad optics. Let the probe on Russia carry on. Keep Rosenstein in that position. What would you say?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think removing Rosenstein ends the Mueller investigation. And one of the factors the president is probably thinking about is my fanatic enemies in the deep state are going to use this as another excuse to continue the Mueller investigation and pretend that this is obstruction when I remove someone for potential misconduct, like they've done with Comey.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Thursday's going to be a heck of a news day, as they say. Tom Fitton, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Joining us tonight, Congressman Matt Gaetz, member of the House Judiciary Committee, one of the 12 Republican lawmakers who've called on the president to declassify both the FISA and Bruce Ohr documents. And Congressman, great to have you with us. Let me start with this first report that Emmett Flood purportedly has been leading the effort on the part of some attorneys within the White House to stop the release of the FISA documents. Your thoughts?
Well, I've not met Mr. Flood. I haven't spoken with him, but I do know that only transparency is going to expose the extent of the corruption and really the connectivity of the cabal that is out to disrupt this presidency. I mean, we have caught the Ohrs red-handed, not disclosing information. And I think what's really important is that the information wasn't given to the secret court, to the FISA judge. And so here's our common sense argument, Lou. We can't show the American people what was hidden from the secret FISA court until we show the American people what was presented to the hidden FISA court. And I think that that's really going to show where you didn't see the DNC paying for this information, you didn't see the bias in creating it, and you didn't see the Department of Justice's own spousal relationships impacting what was presented as an intelligence document.
Well, that, as you say, common sense, and it makes perfect sense. There is also the issue here. This is a president who has said, and he has acted upon it, he wants his to be the most transparent administration in history. A claim made by his predecessor, but honored only in the breach by the former president. This president has a unique opportunity, and that is to take control of this witch hunt that that has frustrated him throughout his presidency. He has received no support from Mitch McConnell, from Speaker Ryan, from you and a number of your colleagues. He has received immense support, but from the leadership, nothing. At a time when McConnell and Ryan, in any other circumstance, would have expected, one would have expected to stand shoulder to shoulder with this president and simply decry the appointment of the special counsel and demand its end.
Well, Lou, I think that what you've highlighted is the frustration with the status quo, but imagine how worse things will get if the Democrats take over in the midterms. I think Bob Mueller purposefully doesn't want to give his report to a Republican Congress. I think that they are hoping that the Democrats will take over, that Mueller can issue a report, and then Democrats in the House can have a snap impeachment to really take us away from the results that we've been delivering for the American people. I mean, you look at the energy in the Democratic Party right now, it's about resistance, not results. And so as imperfect as our Republican leadership is, and we've been very critical of them at times on this show, Lou, I think it's a heck of a lot better than having the Democrats do everything they can to create chaos when we've got a president doing so much on trade, on the economy, on jobs to make sure that American people live better lives.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I personally, I believe that the American people agree with what you're saying. And I can't imagine that Republicans won't turn out in massive order. I don't know whether such a thing is in prospect.
They've got to know what's at stake, Lou. I mean, Republicans have got to know that if you do not show up and vote in these midterms, you are essentially dooming our president to impeachment. And so we've got to get up, we've got to be active, and do everything we can to encourage people to exercise the right to vote. Madison said that citizen was the highest role in the democracy, and we've got to rise to that challenge in the midterms as conservatives.
You know, the American people, and particularly those who voted for President Trump, did rise to the occasion in 2016. They've been frustrated. This president has not delivered on the wall. He's been frustrated in that desire by McConnell and Ryan. There has to be, it seems to me, a new bargain between this president and the people he would have vote for you and for your colleagues in the House and in the Senate. It seems that there needs to be a new Trump contract with specificity and dates about when does the wall get funded and what is going to happen next, because it can't be another one-way deal. It was, it was a shot, if you will, heard around the world in 2016, but now there's got to be careful aim and careful targeting in that contract, don't you think?
Well, you're right, and I'm new to the Congress. This is just my first term, but we make being a member of Congress a lot harder than it needs to be. If we wanted to fund the wall, we could do it this week, Lou. Yep. We could put funding for the wall onto the appropriations package. We could send it over to the Senate, and that wall funding could be on President Trump's desk before Florence even makes landfall in the Carolinas. But we won't do that because we're so afraid that if we do bold things, that will upset the apple cart for the midterms. Well, you know what? As Republicans, we need to be a lot bolder, and that's why I stand with Congressman Jim Jordan, who proposed just what I've described. Let's fund the wall, let's do it right now, and let's go into the midterms with some momentum, doing what we said and keeping our word to the American people.
I couldn't agree with you more, Congressman. I think you've got the right man for the job. I think that you are making absolutely perfect sense, but at the same time, as we're talking about turnout, the Republicans listening to you saying, why do I need any more of these feckless fools who will not demonstrate the principle and the courage to do precisely what you and Jim Jordan have said? Move on. Let's get this thing done. And I just don't know I just don't know how that affects the American voter right now. We'll
demoralize our base if we don't do what we said. Look, we didn't repeal Obamacare to the fullest extent, and if we don't build this wall and we ask people to show up and vote, they're going to ask what we've done for them. Now, I think the economy is rolling. I think the regulatory environment's right. I like that we're resetting trade, but this last election in 2016 was about immigration, and we need to do what we said.
Without question, and this president he has more than delivered on his promises. I can't wait to see what the contract is that the Republicans will make with the American people in order to assure strong turnout that will keep this president, this Congress, and this Senate in control of our government. Because it's critical to see what their Democrats are talking about. My gosh, your head could explode listening to some of the litanies of free stuff that they're pushing across the table, irrespective of their own performance record or lack of such a record. It gets kind of exciting to think about what would happen on November 6th, because I can't imagine anyone rational voting Democratically. I suspect it's a bit of a leap for you as well, Congressman.
Well, yeah, and look, their agenda will be chaos. Every day there won't be policies put forward to help the American people, to help the middle class, to make sure that we've got safe streets and good schools. All the Democrats will do is they will manifest their Trump derangement syndrome in crazy hearings that will distract us from the important work that we've got to do for the American economy, the American worker, and the American family. So, look, I get that there are elements of it that are a bumpy road, but we're doing better as a country because the president is showing bold leadership. Now, you're right, the Congress can do more, but the Congress has to be a partner, not an impediment. And if the Democrats take control, all they'll be selling for 2 straight years is chaos and disruption rather than the results that the American people deserve and that we can get. We just have to keep our promises.
I mean, this David French, they're all never Trumpers. They hate Trump. This David French agreed and said if these allegations are true, it should mar him for life. What does that mean? And I mean, all these other people.
First of all, if everybody that we know were marred for life by either their high school or college experiences,
good luck.
It's going to become a very different country.
Yeah, well, and I think that, again, there's this... I don't know if it's this puritanical strain of the so-called conservatives out there, who apparently they are the moral arbiters of all that is good and not good, and certain people should not get redemption, and certain people are just too icky for the conservative movement, and Trump doesn't read enough Cicero or whatever it is. And it's a type of snobbishness that has literally no constituency in the country.
No, but look, this is how great revolutions occur. I mean, in 1936, Al Smith, who had been the Democratic candidate for president in 1928, who was very close to Franklin Roosevelt, actually recruited Roosevelt to run for governor in 28. Smith announced that Roosevelt was too liberal and he was leaving the Democratic Party. Theodore Roosevelt decided that the Republicans were no longer engaged in enough reform, bolted in 1912, and gave Woodrow Wilson the presidency. These when you have periods of great change, some people are going to be left behind. They're sort of the historic wreckage. They're fossilized. These are people who are trapped in time, and gradually they lose readership and they lose importance, and they then disappear. And someday they get to write a memoir about who I once was a long time ago before you can remember.
The president spoke today, Newt, at the UN. He's chairing the Security Council meeting, and he brought up the issue of China in the 2018 midterms. Let's listen.
Regrettably, we found that China has been attempting to interfere in our upcoming 2018 election against my administration. They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade. We are winning at every level.
What do you make of that?
We don't want them to meddle or interfere in our upcoming election.
So meddling in the election, a lot of people were thinking, well, they first heard that, is that Russia? No, it was China. So they obviously have some information about China's effort to stop his trade agenda. And I think he's right about that. They've never dealt with anyone like him.
Well, I think that's right. And I strongly support taking the Chinese head on. In fact, my next book is going to be on China, because I think they are the greatest competitor we face in the world today. I think they are determined to surpass us if they can. And frankly, since 1991, one of their great advantages has been that they've been in the World Trade Organization, and they have cheated every single year. I think the estimate this is under Obama, not Trump. Obama's director of national intelligence said that the Chinese stole $470 billion in intellectual property in 1 year, which was more than all of our exports to China. And so they have fueled their rise by stealing and cheating on trade, and the president is prepared to stare them down and to force real change. I think it's remarkably important and very healthy for the country.
Yeah, and people were making a big deal of this at MSNBC when the president was laughed at. He was laughed at by the UN yesterday when he said, we've had an incredible record. And didn't they used to laugh at Reagan?
And if you watch the actual clip, he broke up laughing too and said, well, I guess you have a right to do do that.
I thought he handled it great.
Speech. Yeah. The speech itself, I tweeted out yesterday, and I was delighted, for example, that Sean Hannity actually used the last hour of his radio show to just run the speech, because I think it's the most important statement of American nationalism versus the globalist that anybody has made. I thought it was clear. I thought he was just setting down a line of principles. It was reinforcing a speech that John Bolton gave to the Federalist Society about the illegitimacy of the International Criminal Court, and I think it was also taking head-on this entire John Kerry, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton globalism that would submerge America in the interest of bureaucrats and international lawyers, and I think it's a really important speech.
No, I agree, and again, it's something we haven't heard from a U.S. president in this post-WTO era, and a lot of presidents promised they were going to be tougher on China, and meanwhile it got worse and worse for China as time went on. Newt, before we let you go, there's one other soundbite I want to play for you. This is the vaunted Dan Rather on what happens if the GOP confirms Kavanaugh. Let's listen.
In these theories of evolution, we talk about, what happened to the dinosaurs, and they got to be extinct. If the Republican Party isn't careful, that's what's going to happen to them, because they may be able to push through the Kavanaugh, railroad through the Kavanaugh nomination with what are known on the Hill as the old bulls, the older white men who have the power. But this can't last because America's changing.
America's changing. White men. It's again.
Look, I wrote a newsletter this week and posted also at foxnews.com about the special election in Texas, where we won a seat on the border in the state Senate that we had not held in 139 years. It's a 73% black and Hispanic district. We elected the first Hispanic Republican to serve in the state Senate, and it was a big pickup, very, very important. And so we're winning races while these Washingtonians sit around lecturing us because they don't realize yet their view of the world is gone. I mean, that's why you see the hysteria and you see mobs trying to chase Ted Cruz out of a restaurant, and you see the kind of hysteria you get from Maxine Waters. They are losing. And if all of our base goes out to vote this fall, they will lose. The Democrats and the left will pay deeply for what they've done to Judge Kavanaugh.
I completely agree with you, and I think, again, it's time to put up or shut up. This is one of the main reasons Donald Trump won this election, the Supreme Court, and he's a good man. He should be confirmed. But I think a lot depends on his performance tomorrow. I think he was a little shaky in that Fox interview. I don't think it was great. It was okay, I guess, but I don't think it was great. He's got to bring an A game tomorrow.
He's not a natural politician.
No.
And he shouldn't try to be one. And I think I'm going to be with you tomorrow night afterwards, analyzing it on your TV show. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, Newt. You take care. Have a good rest of the day. Newt Gingrich tomorrow on the Ingram Angle. A lot more to get to. Stay there. I have my doubts. Susan.